Hello everybody, this is James Diboe on Discovering at Liverpool Online, and we got a special guest in today, Nasra Elliot. How you doing, Nasra?
Oh, I'm doing good, James. Thanks for having me. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, well, we finally got you here, and a bit of information on Nasra anyway. She works for Kim Johnson, the first black MP of Liverpool. You know, that's definitely very important. Also, the Return Project, which we're involved in, it's me, Patrick, Graham, Nasra, Raz, Congo, and we are taking youth to age 16 to 19 to Africa, hopefully to Rwanda in particular. And we're going to, first time we've got Nasra in, you know, she's leading the group, so we're going to get your take on it. And where did the Return Project come from the beginning? I remember you asked me and Patrick, but just before that, where did it all come from?
From the beginning, I suppose it started from a long time ago. In the back of my mind, basically my uncle John Hill deceased man, unfortunately, but it was basically his idea to take young black youth, African diaspora youth, back to Sierra Leone, which is my paternal family's home, and he wanted to take Liverpool African diaspora youths over there, learn the culture, embrace the culture, and, you know, come back fresh. So that was just something that I always remember. That was such a good idea, isn't it? You know, I wish he would have been able to fulfill that. And then COVID come, so my mind's just racing. Got a lot of time on your hands and stuff. I'd just done the Ben and Redevelopment project. A lot of emotions come out of that for me. It was a great experience, but it just hammered home a lot of stuff that has been taken away from us. I'm with Liverpool Black History Research Group, so I'm looking at, you know, the black presence and the enslavement period and whatever else. And I'm thinking, you know, I've worked with youth forever. I must have volunteered when I was 16 at a youth club. I was a student ambassador at university, Northwest London. I used to work with disadvantaged young people, as they call them. I don't really like that term, but so the youth, I've always thought, you know, the youth are our future.
Definitely.
You know?
Yeah. And
I always felt when I was growing up, the stigma of being a Liverpool-born black youth, and also, you know, the lack of opportunities, and also just the lack of love and care. It just vanished with Man in Your Era. A lot of the consciousness as well. You know, I used to see red, yellow and green. There was a lot of Rasta influence. We were very proud of our blackness. Although some of us have got admixture, we definitely were proud of our blackness, our Africanness. So I thought, you know what? Our youth are just left, and it's not on. So what can I kind of do to help?
Well, you're doing really good at the moment. I mean, you've been involved with a lot. You've been a lot of places, you know. So, so when we go back now with the Return Project, and like you said, your Uncle John, I got to meet him. He was a great friend of the family.
Yeah,
legend.
Family,
you know, really great man. And the idea of a Return Project, I thought that was a great idea. When you first asked me and you said would I be interested in taking youth over, being a part of a project, and we do workshops, take them to Rwanda. Now, we were first looking at Sierra Leone, if we backtrack, and Ghana. Yeah. But then Patrick had the link to Raz Congo, so we ended up looking at it. Made more sense to us there. But that's going to be, what do you reckon? I mean, I've got my own ideas, everyone's got their own ideas. What do you reckon we were expecting kind of an experience for the youth in Africa? I know it's going to be a big experience, but what do you reckon?
I want the workshops first Liverpool based, so that they can gel, build up a rapport with ourselves, get them in touch with different organisations that, you know, within our community, to give them opportunities that they may not have thought of, and to engage them in social actions. I'm even going to get them on the Labour tip. Okay. Because although there's arguments for and against mainstream politics, I believe grassroots is definitely 100% the way to go. However, there's a certain point where you have to bang on the doors of the town hall, the council and whatnot. So I believe that within a political party, you do have the opportunity to influence. So every single connection I have, I want to give to the young people within the workshops, plus any information that they lack, we can educate.
Definitely.
You know, the amount of education and knowledge you can give Patrick and myself and other people that are going to come and do workshops for us on our behalf is going to be immeasurable.
Definitely.
So that bit is crucial to me. But once they're over in Rwanda, I mean, it's just going to be powerful and mind-blowing, humbling. Hopefully it'll instill a lot of pride as well, and it will dispel myths
definitely.
about Africa. They're going to go and see cities, they're going to go and see the smaller communities, and, you know, I just think that as an active citizen, I went to Mexico City and Merida for a 1-week international study visit.
Oh, excellent.
So again, that was another element that made me think, oh, why don't I do this?
Excellent.
With young people who are going to benefit it more. Because when I did that, I benefited, but I was a big grown woman. So I thought, how will...
Imagine if the youth are being taken. Yeah.
And even if 5-10 years time the penny doesn't drop for the youth that have attended the international study visit, trust me, that is going to be something that influences them at some point in their life, if not immediately.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's all the beginning. It starts off with our parents being our teachers, and it's always the way. Sometimes people ain't equipped with the knowledge to give the children there for various reasons, whether people didn't know the burdens or they haven't been taught themselves. But, you know, we're lucky that we got taught from young.
Yes.
So, and I think that is the starting point of the vehicle, where eventually it's... Like
education is the key.
I mean, I wouldn't have gone as far as I've gone if they were in the beginning. To me, do you know what I'm saying? I was installed with culture from the beginning. So
exactly.
Once I started learning more about Africa, like you say, dispelling the myths, visited Africa myself, and seeing some of the greatest people I've ever came across on the planet, the greatest hospitality, and I've been many places in the world, and then nothing can compare with Africa. And I've always had that solid loyalty to it. But the problem is we have a lot of our own people who don't have the loyalty to Africa for different reasons. Yeah. It can be what they see on the media, what they're fed basically, and even propaganda. And I think these are definitely things. That's the whole point of this show. Yeah,
well, there's a disconnect, and that stems from colonialism. That stems from the enslavement period, colonialism and neocolonialism. Yeah. And basically, they're just mutations of oppression. Neocolonialism, I've started to look at more and more. I've touched, you know, I've seen it over the years, but, you know, we live, we work, and we're doing our scholarship independently and voluntarily. Yeah. So, you know, I can't sit, you know, 5 days a week and study. Yeah. So I'd say I'm at basic level, but I know enough to see that the African diaspora really need to get to understand neocolonialism. Definitely. Now, Kwame Nkrumah, great Pan-Africanist, Ghanaian president, he brought that term, if you like, to me, this neocolonialism. And basically, if we don't understand, sometimes I may say, you know, terminology that is difficult, but if we don't get to grips with the terminology, we can't even begin to try and challenge what's gone on and what's going on. Now, Ghana under Nkrumah was the gold was nationalised, so that was positive for Ghana. Yeah. Now, what happened is now 90% of gold, of the gold mines in Ghana, who owns it? Africa? No. You got Britain, America, Canada, 90%. And how they did that is they got rid of Nkrumah. The CIA come in. This is what happens because I'm sick of hearing about African despots. Who puts the despots in? Because my heroes, Nkrumah, Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba, various African leaders who were socialist, very forward-thinking, equality for women, they are always either killed or got rid of via the CIA. Yep. So the CIA gets rid of Nkrumah. Ghana has to pawn its gold, and then Ghana, in order to trade, has to give up their gold mines. That's what's happened. See? And people don't understand that. So it is about education, but the continent is big, it's vast. You know, so to try and keep up with what's going on is difficult. Now, the International Monetary Fund, they're supposed to facilitate trade for the globe, for the good of the globe. But the International Monetary Fund does not. It does for Pan-Europeanism.
Right.
Yeah. It's got the, it's supposed to help everybody, but it doesn't. And I bring up Pan-Europeanism as a term because we all know what Pan-African is.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of us do.
Yeah.
Pan-African, he's wearing a dashiki, he's too into Africa. We know the negative connotations of what Pan-Africanism is, although we enjoy and embrace the positives because it is a positive concept. But like you said, some of our people, they reject Africa.
Yeah.
They can't seem to connect the fact that they are African, which is bizarre. Pan-Europeanism is alive and well. Pan-Europeanism is what European nations practice, whether it's Australia, South Africa.
Yeah.
I'll go back to that because people might say, oh, South Africa is African. Canada, USA and Europe, they very much trade and improve each other. They keep a domination on Africa for monetary purposes.
Yep.
And they work together. They very much work together. South Africa, the likes of the Diboes who own the diamond mines, the head of them will be on like 70 different boards all over the world in the Pan-European nations from Australia to Canada. Now, if you're on 70 boards, you're influencing everything.
Definitely.
And what are they influencing? The Garden of Eden, Africa, rich in minerals and resources, etc. They basically extract from Africa, as we know. Okay, we know about gold, diamonds, ivory, silver. You also talking about uranium, cobalt, sulfuric acid, palm oil. It's vast. Everything, food products.
It shows you like why we're in the situation within our motherland is crying out for help, and it can't even help its people around the world. And it's in Africa. Just looking back at the history, you've always had different people trying to invade. Look like the trading. Then it's just going on. You could go from the Persians, the Hyksos, the Turks, the Arabs, the Greeks, the Rome. You could just go on, and they've all basically tried to move African back and back and back, and it worked in the end. Now you look at North Africa, it's the Arabs and European descendants. Then you look at, like, say, South Africa, like you've just mentioned.
South Africa.
That is a total, like, I think that is absolutely terrible what's gone on there.
What happened with South Africa is people were happy with a figurehead that was African, that was black. But in actuality, if you go and actually look at what went on at that time, de Klerk, who was white South Africaans president at the time of apartheid, he wasn't no saint. He wasn't interested in freeing African peoples or getting rid of apartheid.
Yeah.
He was forced to. He didn't have an option.
Yeah.
But what de Klerk did, again, Pan-Europeanism, he ensured that his people, the white South Africans, maintained their political power and economic power. They did not lose economic power at all. He ensured that things were signed and they maintained their power. So you can put up a black man all day.
Like Nelson Mandela, for example.
Yeah, you can put a black man all day.
He had so much power.
If you look at it, to this day, the white South Africans maintained, everything that they owned.
Yeah.
So I do think like the Rainbow Nation it's a con.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was looking after the interests of his people, de Klerk, and he did that very well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, this is why self-love. There's too much self-hate out there. If we concentrate on self-love, bigging each other up, supporting each other on a global level. I've got friends in different places in the world, particularly original countries where the original peoples are, and that's another thing. Obviously, I forgot to mention at the beginning, where this whole season dedicated to original people. I'm sure you've watched some of the podcasts and that. And when I say original people, it's just another term we want to use because of, say, when we've came into this country and we're given the word black.
Yeah.
Now, you can call it what you want, but I'm looking at the dictionary of the negativity of the word you've given us. So we were quickly to take it on.
Yeah.
Now, people have mentioned about, well, the Irish were called black at one time. Now, what I'll say, you can clearly see they're not. Number two, what did the Irish call themselves? Because it's always this title of taking on what the oppressor calls you. I'm not interested in what they want to call us. What did we call ourselves? And this is why we're trying to go back into history. What did African people call themselves? People say the name Africa is named after Scipio Africanus. It's a debatable thing because the word Afri is an African word, and the other part is connected with the Latin. So it's like a double kind of thing, because they were always taking it off us anyway. But very important, though, anyway, about this self-hate anyway. And I think this leads to crabs in a barrel. And every time, like, it's like, for example, you'll have Eminem as a rapper. People will say he's the best. Just because of his complexion, he gets a protection.
Yeah.
And this is like, I'll be honest, I don't rate him at all. I've never, I can't listen to any, I don't like his voice. Sounds horrible. But what I think it is, I know that sometimes brothers don't want to give each other props. They'd rather give him props.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And like, it's about speaking out. And a lot of our people are afraid to speak out because they sometimes worry about getting ridiculed because you're not come with popular opinions.
They lack confidence.
Yeah.
Self-hate is about a very deep lack of confidence and lack of self-esteem.
Yeah.
Now, people might not want to hear that, but if you do not have pride in who you are, that is a lack of confidence. I don't care if you can stand up and talk in front of a room of 1 million people. If you're not proud of your heritage, you don't have confidence, and that's the bottom line. My mother taught us before the age of 7. She said, if you don't get your consciousness by age 7, you're going to struggle with being proud. So it was hammered home. I was indoctrinated in the womb by my mother, and thank God every day, and my family members, other family members.
Definitely.
But self-hate is real. The vast majority of our people, I believe, have that to varying degrees. Maybe even myself. I'm sat here with blow-dried straight hair. But I recognise.
Yeah, you recognise though.
Thing,
you know,
and you have to reflect, and you know, question yourself as well. But I do feel we're our own worst enemy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and that, you know, our unification globally needs to be recognised.
Definitely.
The African diaspora, we need to recognise where we're from in order to go back and help. I believe we'll go full circle and fulfil the book. Yeah.
I mean, like I say, like there's, even when I went to Fiji, they say that they come from Africa, and 3,500 years ago, the first people inhabited Fiji. Now, if they left Africa 3,500 years, well, got to Fiji then, and still remember that African, then we've got some people who are second, third, whatever generation here, who don't know that African.
Yeah.
So it shows you that oral history, if you just keep passing oral history down, it seems to be more reliable than even documented history.
Most definitely, there's definite wealth in oral history, 100%. I mean, but a lot was written. You know, this is another myth. There's a myth that Africa didn't have writing systems, or that the only writing system was in
Egypt and all that. Yeah.
Every single nation within Africa had a writing systems, various writing systems.
Even if people couldn't understand it outside, it's writing. Just because someone can't understand it.
This is a myth again.
That's it.
Black people didn't. Africans didn't have a writing system. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
So what we just sat there and did that. You can literally go and see from East Africa to West Africa various writing systems.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just if people tell you, it's like we believe anything we're told, even if it's in front of our faces, and that is what
white approval. So
that is. Well, no, that's what self-hate has done.
Yeah.
To the extent where we can see
we need that.
Everything positive in front of us, but it's like a cognitive dissonance, what Frantz Fanon spoke about. It's like the the West Indian scholar from, say, Guadeloupe. He wants to study in Paris, and he knows about the Roman classics, and he knows about artwork from, Europe, and he knows about the Greek classics and whatever else. Ask him about Africa, he knows nothing.
Well, a lot of people think the Greeks got their knowledge independently, which it's totally false. And this is why I can't see why are they still teaching this in
But
the curriculum today.
Go back to what I've just said.
Yeah.
Frantz Fanon, I can't remember what book, but he basically made the point that this brother's intelligent, but he's rejecting his own greatness.
Yeah.
He's rejecting his own heritage, but he can tell you all about Rome. You know, that there's something wrong there.
But you go, and then going back into ancient times, actually reading some, I mean, look at the greats that we've got, people like Chancellor Williams, Sheikh Diop, Renoka Rashidi, God bless them all, Dr. Clark, Dr. Ben, and all these types of people. These are, I mean, I've got to give so much respect and give it up to these people, how much I've learned off them, and everybody else has learned.
Yeah.
And it's one thing where, when we get told a bunch of myths growing up, then when you start digging into that history and you start seeing that Africans were already in Asia setting up civilizations before Asians had any civilizations, and the same with Europe. They didn't have no civilization. Even the Chinese are wandering around the Gobi Desert before they had a civilization. You know, so these are very important things that we just don't give the credit, because there's not too many of us concentrating on it. And in West Africa, there's a lack of funding for archaeology or anthropology or anything like that, real lack.
And the problem, going back to colonialism, the structure within Africa itself, the education, the law, culturally, it's been infiltrated by the West.
That's right.
So Africans on the continent aren't getting taught what was going on in Africa. Fela Kuti got his consciousness from an African-American woman when he went to America. That's when he become conscious, and he went back to Nigeria. So the problem is also on the continent.
This is serious, what you've just said.
Mental slavery,
now,
it's real.
Now, that can't be overlooked, what you've just said then. The problem is also in Africa as well. It's not just the diaspora. And
because
it's so,
of colonization.
Yeah, it's so real, what you just said. I mean, just being in Africa myself, and I talked to everybody. I want to know as much as possible. It wasn't until I met the Maasai tribes in Kenya where the knowledge was pouring out, because their oral history, they talk about their god, the Engai, duality, but the duality meaning the force of nature. You know what I'm saying? But in Gambia, I had to go to meet. I went to the Kunta Kinte Island. I had to speak to a professor to get good information. I asked them about a lot of things. Said, how come people say African spirituality is bad? Now, I'm using that word spirituality, but there's another word sometimes we use that they could. Well, I can't be bothered using that word. But anyway, he basically said it was positive, but the kings made it negative. Now, this is a different. I just like to air different views, and when he put it, the kings made it negative. Of course, kings or anyone can be corrupt. Do you know what I'm saying? Someone can make it negative can be dead on purpose. But this goes back to sometimes people say, well, there was already slaves in Africa, but servitude or prisoners of war or whatever you want to call it is completely different, because a slave don't rise up in the transatlantic. He's a slave, his son's a slave, your daughter's a slave. In Africa, they talk about Mansa Musa. He had slaves, but it's not slaves like we people picture this, slaves and chains and whips, and it's nothing like that at all. It's
different because it wasn't racialized,
and they were able to rise up.
It wasn't racialized at all. And we're dealing with the ramifications of enslavement now. The legacy is racism. So therefore, when people say the most ignorant things like there were slaves in Africa, you know, that's time for me to shut off a lot of the time, because they're not understanding that the slavery within Africa did not make the lives of those people in 2022 hard.
Also, Arabs had plenty of slaves, you know, so I mean, one of the biggest slave revolts was in Iraq that we don't hear about in the 8th century. And this is Africans who were rebelling about being into slavery in Iraq in the 8th century. And that's something what my grandmaster touched upon, Renoka Rashidi. And this is so overlooked. Nobody even has heard of these things. So I'm trying to popularize what's not popular. That's the whole point.
Quiet.
It's kept quiet and that. But anyway, Kim Johnson, anyway, how long do you work for Kim Johnson, anyway?
1 year and 3 months.
And how was it?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, hopefully we can give a good legacy.
Definitely.
And, you know, help improve our situation within the city and nationally.
How hard is it getting black people involved in what you're doing, would you say?
I think it is difficult because black people may think it's not their arena. However, I think that if they just came along to some meetings and stuff, they would realise the benefit of that, and the fact that representation does matter. It really does.
Yeah.
If we're not in that room, then we cannot make a difference.
That's right.
And also with politics, you do have to have, you know, people backing you. So if one person's in the room, you know, it's very hard to get the rest of the room to swing with you if you're talking about particular issues that they wouldn't feel has got anything to do with them. If more of the black community were within those rooms, then naturally more of our wants and needs, it doesn't even have to be necessarily black issues. It might just be something like you want that building to be, you know, put back into use.
Yeah.
So then that's not a racial issue.
No.
That's just something that you want. But if you're not in that room, it's not going to happen. And it's as simple as that. So although when I was younger, I may have had a different opinion, being within it and being a Labour delegate and attending, you know, various different meetings, I can see that we really are behind and we need to be in there.
Got to be, yeah.
You know, John Archer, Liverpool born, black, Liverpool 8. He was doing things in the 1800s that we're not even doing now. He became the mayor of Battersea, but he was actually from Liverpool 8.
Yeah.
You know, and you think, well, that was going on then. We should have been further now. I mean, don't get me wrong, obviously Kim, amazing. Joanne Anderson, amazing.
Yeah.
But we need to bring people behind them, and Kim is very much about that. But I don't want to put words in my boss's mouth.
Yeah,
So
of course.
I'll move on swiftly.
And I asked that because I know it's probably difficult trying to get like youth involved, black youth particular involved in these
Well, we
things.
have a youth forum.
Oh, do you? Yeah, that's good.
I'm the lead on that.
Good.
It's Kim's forum, but that's, you know, hopefully we'll be getting a lot of youth involved in that over you know, her terms. But what I go back to as well is just touching on what we've spoken about. The black body is loved, it's adored, it's fetishized. Even you as a black man, you've probably heard a lot of things, you know,
Definitely.
Women coming up to you saying whatever, because the black body is loved. But as soon as that black body has consciousness, it's rejected.
Yeah.
You can be in a relationship with someone. I know many people have been in relationships, marriages, had children. As soon as that goes like that, as soon as they depart, racialization comes into play.
Yeah.
And you thought that person's, you know, loves black people. But
Well,
you know
this is why
black consciousness and the black body is often, you think it would be together, but it ain't.
Yeah. Well, this is why my dad, when I was younger, said when you're older, get yourself a black woman and have kids with her. And
I know.
to be honest,
I spoke to your dad.
I mean, like some people, it's just whatever. I mean, each to their own. But for me, I was happy to take on that. I love me black women. That's what I'm about. You know. So basically, Liverpool's a different kind of place because it's a lot of racial mixing in Liverpool.
Yeah.
So whereas maybe London,
Birmingham, even Manchester.
Yeah, you could even Manchester. It's totally a different place, and I'll be honest though, I feel like one of the very few people who have a solid Africanness like yourself, and certain few others.
Does it?
I mean, it's like levels, to be honest. It's like there's that consciousness and this consciousness.
I was gonna say that.
So we have to have levels because I've realised that there's so many different layers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like I'm going in there 100. You know,
I remember you saying that to me
You know what I mean?
a while back about levels of consciousness.
It is levels.
It stuck with me because there's people who are now, who you know, are great and whatnot, but there's a disconnect in that racial pride and whatnot. And I just sometimes I think, isn't that a shame? You're lacking that level.
Because I'm trying to look at the different elements to be this particular.
To be strong.
Yeah, to be strong. So I'm looking at, say like we talked about spirituality before.
Yeah.
When I've mentioned that to some black people, they write it off. It's either bad or...
They mock it.
But they put religion before it.
Yeah.
They're comfortable because it's popular religion.
Yeah. They're comfortable with the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, because it's been it's been forced on them. They don't even understand that it's been forced on them. And I don't want to get too much into this because people want to kill me.
Yeah.
But I just don't understand why the African peoples worship non-African gods. To me, that makes no sense, but it actually makes sense to the position that we're in now.
It does.
If you are worshipping something that is not you, you are going to feel inferior. If that being is superior and the best thing, and you're worshipping that being, then you're looking at yourself. You don't look like that being. You are not that being. Therefore, mentally, you have told yourself you are inferior. And there's a lot to say for that. And people don't seem to get
don't
that.
get it. If people can conquer your God, they've conquered your nation. And that's a powerful thing.
It's as simple as that.
You can,
I mean, I love Malcolm X, I love Muhammad Ali.
Yep.
I understand why they went to the Nation of Islam, because God loved them. They were trying to run away from Christianity and what Christianity had done to them.
Yeah.
But I think if they would have had more knowledge of African spirituality and whatnot, a different time, a different place, they may not have gone to Islam. But I can definitely understand why they did.
I think also there's another thing, because a guy called Dr. John Andrew Clark, who's a friend of Malcolm X, he's one of the grandmaster historians.
Yeah,
so to be a friend of Malcolm X would have his surroundings with knowledgeable people. Now, what it seemed, the front line seemed to be the activism. Mm-hmm. Now, it's all good, because we've got to get that point across. But if the activism's there, but the history's not there, there's a problem. And I think this is also a problem we can have in this city or anywhere in England, America, anywhere in the West or Africa, because it's got to be a strong connection. If you don't have a strong connection to back home, even if you're...
There's got to be a unification. Like Bob Marley said, I say Bob, but people that know me know when I say Bob, it's Bob Marley.
Yeah.
Bob told us in his lyric, Peter Tosh as well, the unification of Africa. Without that, I'm mentally...
Marcus Garvey, vision.
Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Webb Diboe, even people don't realise he died in Ghana. He was a Pan-Africanist.
True Pan-African.
But
True.
I think mentally we need to get that into our mindsets. Africans, wherever we are, the Caribbean, North America, South America, we need to understand that the unification of Africa is imminent. It's a priority.
And another place which gets so overlooked of African people, South America, Central America.
There's more African blood there than a lot of places.
This is what I mean. Like, people, just because these might speak Spanish, Portuguese or whatever, it's like we're very like I just see black people, wherever we are, original peoples, and this is the whole theme, original peoples. Yeah. You've been to Australia.
Yeah.
Do you see any Aborigines, even on the streets?
I did. Yeah.
It was amazing, like, to see them, and like, but it was hurting to see how they're living.
It was painful to see. Yeah.
Alcoholics and all on drugs, glue or whatever they're on, and I had a little good talk to them. I said, you know what, as bad as things are, and I said this from a spiritual perspective, I said, you will get your country back one day. And he looked at me with these sad eyes, but he could see in the back of his mind that justice will be served.
They, with the Aboriginals, they have been decimated, and they're openly spoken about with contempt.
Yeah.
In Australia, I was shocked at that. I was horrified at that.
Same with Papua New Guinea. You got Papua New Guinea, but you got West Papua, and it was a Dutch colony a long time ago. Then, when they become independent, the Indonesian armies were going in, taking over. Yeah. Now, you just look, well, where were they getting the weapons from? All backed by the West. Yeah. So the amount of Papuans in West Papua that are being slaughtered, close to 1 million, and so rapidly, they've got Indonesian armies going there, raping the women, killing them. Yeah. There's a guy called Benny Wender. You ever come across him? Now, he called out for help, but, we called on Africa. Yeah. And I think it Senegal that stood up first to give him the help. They brought him to Africa. He was there with Renault Rashidi. and he was speaking about his story, and it was so sad what his family and all his people are going through as he's sitting there now. He's like, oh, someone's being tortured right now. They're just locking him up in jails. He had to break out of jail, don't know how many times. But he's a true legend, a true warrior. But this is the problem, where when we're visible to seeing what's going on, a lot of people don't even know about what's going on in West Papua.
Exactly.
They don't know what's going on in
it's like
parts of Africa.
Mali right now is under siege. You got the French in there, you got the Germans in there. Like I was saying earlier to you, you know, Europe wants to talk about democracy. Oh, aren't we democratic? And we're going to bring democracy to Africa. Your democracy in Africa is raping. And I'm talking about now, 2022. It's rape, sexual violence, it's torture, it's giving unfair trials, it's shooting, massacring people, villagers, at wedding parties. People are being murdered, civilians. So when they talk about the democracy, it's a hypocrisy, as we know. But it's just, unfortunately, people don't know this is going on. Yeah. And this is why I talk about neocolonialism, why we need to get to grips with it. Western Sahara is being dominated by Morocco. Throughout Africa, there'll be instances. It's just I happen to know, you know, what's going on in Mali right now. So for people to turn a blind eye to that because we're okay in the West, or the African diaspora, no, we're not okay. If Africa's not okay, believe me, we're not okay. It has a knock-on effect, because the knock-on effect is what we've literally been talking about. It's racism and whatever else. If people are looking at your continent and seeing that it's something that can just be exploited and abused, we can sit pretty comfortably, but then understand that's why we don't have opportunity in the West.
And I think also Africa is very too kind to the planet. It's always been too kind to the planet. So when we talk about like North Africans, sometimes like me, I can just like have a multi-vision of different things, where some people say if they're Christian in Africa, they might say the Muslims are causing the problem. If they're the Muslim, they might say the Christians are causing the problem. But because I ain't either one, I'll just tell you, Arabs, Europeans, you don't belong in Africa. And if you're coming in to do something positive, that's okay. But you're not. You're coming in to bring problems. And like, why we're so kind, we're still letting the Arabs in North Africa. Believe me, when the Moors were in Spain, they knew they have to get rid of the Moors. Yeah, they got rid of them. Yeah. So we are too kind, where why didn't we get rid of the Arabs in North Africa? And I'm not saying violently. Yeah. I'm talking about yous have got to go. You're a Johnny come lately. It's not your home. And, you know, half the Arabs anyway are from like the Caucasus and places like that, because the original Arabs were black people who came from Africa, and a lot of them were wiped out, pushed out. But I think we are just too nice to the planet. I look at when the Chinese come in, how they treat us in when we're in China. Absolutely disgusting. They come in, rolling the red carpet out for them. Yeah. You know, it's the same with all like the French, just how much debt they put in Africa. Yeah,
the CFA, the French monetary system, which is still crippling Africa to this day.
Disconnection.
Without a doubt. I mean, I think the issue is imperialist, white supremacist, capitalist system. That's a term that Bell Hooks, she's a black author, she died a couple of months ago. That perfectly demonstrates what is going on in the world, what's going on in Africa. That's the system that we're in. You can call it just capitalist if you want, but that's the system that we're in, and that's the system that needs to be dismantled. Socialism, you know, that's Pan-Africanism preaches socialism, and people make out it's just about us, you know, playing the drums and having Afrocentric, you know, Afrocentric culture, if you like. When no, we have a political system and political theories, very strong ones, that would be positive for the entire world. Yeah, but, you know, people are bogged down with capitalism, and black people will engage in capitalism, not realising that capitalism is your enemy.
Definitely. That's very important, that, because it's just about, some people think, you know what,
I don't like a black
money.
capitalist the same way as I don't like a white capitalist.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Capitalism is a European invention.
That's right.
And capitalism, you go to enslavement period. That was capitalism.
Totally.
So
totally.
I can't engage in that.
Yeah.
You know. But
yeah. Well, anyway, you know, it's been interesting today. Anyway, another thing before we go on that, you know, as we're on the topic of returning back home, the Return Project, and the whole purpose is. Half the conversation we've had here today is another reason why the youth need to get to Africa. And also, you know, even like people traveling to Africa, because this is something I mentioned last time, a lot of people would rather go to Spain or they'd rather go to Turkey or go Jamaica even or Caribbean before they go to Africa.
I know people that have been all over the planet and wouldn't consider Africa. Black people.
Yeah.
If that's not a problem, I don't know what is. You know, people don't have to say things. You can just see. Yeah. You know? So
people look at the tourist areas as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are looking for big buildings, like that civilization. Yeah. I don't like these big tall buildings in Africa or like, I mean, like some place you've been where there's got stories high. Yeah. And, you know, I don't like nothing like that. It disturbs weather patterns. It's
Well, I tell you what, like my wishes, I suppose, for the Return. Well, one of the main aims for the Return Project is to get 10 skilled up young people who are going to be ethical change makers. They're going to have, you know, the African diaspora and Africa in their mindset, you know, to do stuff that like what we do. But just to build up more people to do that, because as me and you know, it's having the capacity to educate and to skill us up and whatever else. We're not going to get anywhere if we're trying to assimilate. Assimilation has not worked.
Doesn't work.
You know.
Yeah, it's right there.
We can assimilate, think we've assimilated, but in actual fact, like I said, we've been here 300 years in Liverpool. Yeah. But recorded. Yeah. But yet, what progress have we actually made? So you can assimilate maybe your mate, you know, go down the pub and drink with people and whatever else and socialise with people, maybe even marry people, but we've got nowhere. Nowhere. Regardless of that.
It's really sad. It's really sad that.
It's sad, but I've got hope. That's what I mean. I've got hope in instilling and educating our young people, and hopefully then they'll do the same. And at some point,
in order to like,
we'll get there.
It's also a task though to stay conscious though, because you can be conscious, but when you're surrounded by the unconscious wherever you're going around, then this is another way how to deal with it, because you can sit there and you're around different peoples who have different views. Now, after time, I'll either be arguing with them, or I'll stay quiet, or I just don't want to be around them. Yeah. That's the options, because I've realised I can't mix with certain people who are totally unconscious. I can try to speak to them to see if I get a response and awaken, but there's totally not awake. And then I have to there's people there who will listen and will appreciate the knowledge. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we have to find like-minded.
Like-minded people.
That's how come I come to you, you know, and Patrick and whatnot, because I had to be very careful about who got involved, because they needed to be on the same page as me with the same mission.
Same mission.
And, you know,
that's right.
Unapologetic, you know.
Totally. I'm definitely for that. With Mali, funny enough, going back Timbuktu, you know, the Dogon tribe, and how rich Mansa Musa was, the richest man ever. Like you were saying before about what's going on with Mali now. This is just like a reverse, upside down.
Yeah, well, that's why they're in Africa. You know, they understood. They understand what's there. Yeah. You know, and like I was saying, with Mali, the amount of manuscripts, it's not even just resources on that level. It's resources of the book of education.
Like down a bit. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. So with Mali, you're talking about not only the resources as such in terms of what we've discussed, gold, etc. You're talking about its spirituality. You're talking about its education, its manuscripts, its knowledge. Yeah, so when I talk about neocolonialism, colonialism, enslavement, it's took every single thing away from Africa. Not just obviously the extraction of the resources is massive. Extraction of its people. If you extract its people, you're taking away, you know, the core of the continent. You're taking away with the Benham Redevelopment Project. People don't understand that these objects were not for display. They didn't say, oh, we're going to make these beautiful bronzes so that they can go in a museum in Germany, in Britain, in America. These objects were spiritual objects with significance, and even to this day, you know, the British and whoever have them, they don't understand that. So when they took in 1897 in the punitive expedition where they went into Benin and absolutely looted it.
With Mali, funny enough, with Mali, going back Timbuktu, you know, the Dogon tribe, and how rich Mansa Musa was, the richest man ever. Like you were saying before about what's going on with Mali now, this is just like a reverse, upside down.
Yeah, well, that's why they're in Africa. You know, they understood, they understand what's there.
Yeah.
You know, and like I was saying, with Mali, the amount of manuscripts, it's not even just resources on that level, it's resources of the book of education.
Like down a bit. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. So with Mali, you're talking about not only the resources as such in terms of what we've discussed, gold, etc. You're talking about its spirituality. You're talking about its education, its manuscripts, its knowledge. Yeah, so when I talk about neocolonialism, colonialism, enslavement, it's took every single thing away from Africa. Not just obviously the extraction of the resources is massive. Extraction of its people. If you extract its people, you're taking away, you know, the core of the continent. You're taking away with the Benham Redevelopment Project. People don't understand that these objects were not for display. They didn't say, oh, we're going to make these beautiful bronzes so that they can go in a museum in Germany, in Britain, in America. These objects were spiritual objects with significance, and even to this day, you know, the British and whoever have them, they don't understand that. So when they took in 1897 in the punitive expedition where they went into Benin and absolutely looted it, took everything out of it, they didn't know what them objects meant to them people, but they knew they were ripping the heart out of that civilization, the Benin Kingdom, which was an amazing civilization, which even had street lighting in the 11th century and straight roads, and, you know, a lot of civilization that hadn't even begun in Europe yet.
It's funny when you said about the French and the Moroccans, because I'm going back to like around the 1600s. Moroccans attacking Mali, coming through with the trade.
Relentless.
So it's funny how this was 400 something years ago, and it's still there. Now they got the French. Now I was aware of like when a lot of the people, like the Arabs, how they were able to take over Africa because obviously they were given weapons, you know, from Europeans. And if you want to go back before that, Indo-Europeans.
It didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
You know, these things didn't happen overnight. There was infighting amongst African peoples anyway, because, again, it's a continent. It's not one little country. So you've got other regions trying to annex other regions. So you've got the internal conflict going on, and then you've got the outside invaders going on. Then you've got the spiritual war, you know, getting attacked. These things did not happen overnight. Like, Africa complex.
Dealing with the spiritual war. Now, Mansa Musa, the religion he was, or he became a Muslim, right? But why did he do it? Now, trade purposes, and also to keep the Arabs off the backs. This is facts, and I don't, you know me, I don't like to fit into any narrative. I speak truth. So some people might say, oh, what? Talk about this person, or talk about the other. I talk about both European and the Arab are both guilty of enslaving Africans, and that's why Africa is suffering to this day.
Yeah.
I couldn't care what anyone thinks. I just speak truth. Original people once were ruling this planet and have been overrun by barbaric people in ancient times, up to the last 400 years to this day now. And this is where we're at now. You know, the knowledge is everywhere. We've got to look for it. We've got to research for it, dig, encourage more people to get involved in it. But you know what? Just the people who were there, continue going. Those people who are behind, maybe later on they'll catch up. We don't know what's going to go on down the line. Anything else you want to finish off with, Nasra?
Anything else to finish? Just that, you know, only the fittest of the fittest shall survive. And I just know that, you know, I think if you stay true to yourself, everything should be fine. If you find people that are on your mission, then, you know, connect with them and work with them, because it's about action now.
It's about action.
Yeah.
Totally. I'm totally with that. You know what I mean? Hopefully more people will come on board. But I've realised not every single person who's black has to wake up. I used to think that, but we just need so many of us to wake up.
Group.
Yeah. And that's reality. You know, I'm not going to play into fantasy. It'd have to be some divine essence or something coming down to wake up every melanated person.
Talented 10th.
Yeah.
Me homeboy Web Diboe, talented 10th. I'd like to think that I'm a member of that.
Yeah.
Hey.
That's it, you know, and dedicated to original peoples wherever we are on this planet. Doesn't matter, the Pacific, Africa, Australia, right through Asia, ancient Europe. We were here first and we'll be here last. So today I want to thank you very much, Nasra, Elliot. It's been an excellent conversation today. And it's your first time on it. And finally we got you in here and we talked some great talk today. Thank you.
Oh no, nice one for having me. It's been great, James, as always.
We're going to end it out today. This is Discovered in Season 4, dedicated to original people, Liverpool Online, and we are here today. Thank you very much. Peace. Thanks, Nasra.